Police discrimination toward African Americans has been a problem in the U.S. for many years. One of the most memorable examples of this discrimination against African Americans was the Civil Rights Movement. The Civil Rights Movement was an event that took place during the mid-50s all the way to the late 60s. The main purpose of this movement was to end legalized segregation. One of the more notorious events during this time was the Birmingham Campaign, where police dogs and high-pressure hoses were used against peaceful protesters.
We must say to our white brothers all over the South who will try to keep us down, we will match your capacity to inflict suffering with our capacity to endure suffering. We will meet your physical force with soul force.
It was during this era that a problem began to emerge and become prevalent in the U.S., the discrimination of African Americans by law enforcement. This moment of time could be looked upon as one of the roots of discrimination and racial profiling in modern-day America.
Black Lives Matter started in 2012 shortly after the news of George Zimmerman being acquitted of murdering Trayvon Martin. It's a recent movement calling for an end to racial prejudice against African Americans of all genders, class, sexual orientations, or disability status. Recent events have came into the spotlight involving policemen of all people committing the acts of injustice onto African Americans in our communities, and consequently causing outrage among those communities and America as a whole. Michael Brown, an 18-year-old male, was shot by police officers in Ferguson, Missouri, despite being unarmed. Eric Garner was choked to death by police despite being subdued by multiple officers already. Tamir Rice, a 12-year-old boy playing with an airsoft replica gun in a park, was shot and killed. Freddie Gray, 25 years old, was arrested but not securely put in his seat in the cop car. Gray died of spinal cord injuries later. Protesters rose up strong from these preventable, unnecessary tragedies in an effort to spread the movement and gain support for the obvious prejudices occurring in this country. It is a luxury of obliviousness for other people to feel safe in public, but the same assets cannot be given to African Americans. When they cannot provide you protection, you feel you have lost your human rights of safety and protection. This movement supports all lives, but is specific in its nature because specific movements have more of an impact and message. Institutionalized racism must stop in our society for better lives for all. Among incarceration rates, African Americans are the top group of people, but that is a cause of policemen's distorted views on them, not because African Americans create the most danger.
I believe African Americans are due to oppression, and ever since the three-strike rule, I feel like they've been targeting African Americans just to get them into the system.
Okay. I believe that African Americans have the highest incarceration rate due to just the environment that they have grown up in.
A police car was following us, me and my friends who are all African American, 2 males, 2 girls, and he actually went out of his way, like he actually drove off of the road onto the trail on campus to follow us. It was on our tail, and when we went inside a building, he parked in front of the door and got out inside the car and waited until we walked out of the building. He didn't ask us any questions, but
they kind of showed up randomly. I didn't personally see them, but my brothers did. They kind of looked like they're Middle Eastern. Yeah, suspicious. So they questioned all of us, asked how much money we all had, each one of us. They had 2 dogs going around on our luggage, but they picked our family versus every other person that was in line checking their bags.
Police pulled me over. They was like, oh, license and registration. So I gave it to them, and they was like, nah, we want license to everybody. And I was like, why? Like, it's not like I'm the only one that's driving. But we were all sitting there in t-shirts and, you know, tatted and basketball shorts, so. But nah, I don't trust police.
I've never felt safe around policemen, not just because of the recent events. Ever since I was little, I was always scared, or like, I didn't really feel safe around policemen. I felt like I had always done something wrong, even though I could just be like walking past them.
I've always felt unsafe around police officers. Back then, like when Martin Luther King and like other civil rights movement leaders got arrested, it was somewhat of a reason for them to get arrested. You know, disturbing the peace or whatever. You know what I mean? Disturbing the white peace, I should say. But now it's kind of just like people are getting arrested just because. You know what I mean? People's houses are getting broken into by police just because they feel like they need to. You know what I mean? Like before they had somewhat of a reason to do stuff, even though it was still wrong. And now it's like they have nothing, but they just do it anyway because they feel like they can.
Martin Luther King Jr. and like people who supported him, they were incarcerated. They wanted was equal rights between like blacks and whites. And like I know at least on the news now, a lot of like issues between white and black people right now is that white police officers are killing black people and like they're not getting charged for murder the same way a black person would get charged for murder for killing a white person or a white police officer. Well, hashtag Black Lives Matter, I think that's all about like them wanting the same rights as like white people do, or it's the same principle of just like, them wanting equal rights. So